All right, we are headed into the due diligence module. Before we even get started, I want to lead you with this quote. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. This module emphasizes that quote. You're going to be reviewing disclosures, your underwriting, your comps, your scope of work, your rehab estimate. You're going to be calling or checking on other properties that are actively listed to see what's drawing attention, why properties aren't selling, why properties are selling. You're going to get insurance lined up. You're going to do all of it right before close to make sure that you're buying an asset that's going to yield you money and allow you to implement the business plan that you and your team set forth. All right, so without further ado, let's dive in. So when you get to this step, you are hyped the F up. Emotions are running. You got your first one under contract. It's an accepted offer. But cool your jets. This is just the beginning, right? There's a lot of things that you need to do. Similar to when a seller counters the offer, you're going to do all of these steps. It's imperative you do all of these steps before you even go see the property, right? A couple things you're going to do, right? You're going to get on a call with your agent. You can get a call with your agent, or you can review the comps yourself. Check the scope of work and verify the scope of work. Make sure the rehab budget is reasonable enough. If it's too much, okay, you're under contract when you've overestimated rehab. That's always a good thing. If it's undervalued, see how much undervalued it is. If it's within that 10% margin, go to the property. Again, you have it under contract at this point. See if you can kind of crunch numbers and make it work. Check the disclosures to see if there's any red flags. Crumbling foundation, water penetration through the foundation. There's a lot of things that you want to take a look out for. Go to the street view, see if there's any red flags, power lines, yellow line road, easements that typically are disclosed within the listing description. See how close highways are, see the proximity to commercial buildings, see proximity to large electrical lines, right? The lines that emit 5G. That's a big thing now. People are afraid of 5G, so they don't want to buy a property near these large power lines because they emit 5G, and there's studies showing that there's negative health implications that come from being around these large power lines for an extended period of time, especially if you're living in a property. Just few key points that you want to pay attention to before you even waste your time to go out to the property. Because if you see anything that's a red flag, don't waste your time, don't waste your contractor's time, don't waste the real estate agent's time. Take a look at them, verify. If it all checks out at this point, you know that you're going to schedule a walkthrough. Make sure you do this immediately, because now you only have 5 days for it. If you put 5 days with your inspection in your PSA, well, you got to get this done right away, right? Take the time, take a call or jump on a call with your team late at night, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Takes 30 minutes to do. Make sure you do it. You're going to ensure that you're buying an asset that you can yield a positive return on. When you do complete this process and it all checks out, schedule a showing. Coordinate with your general contractor, coordinate with your real estate agent. Hey, we want to do the walkthrough at X date. Cool. Let's say 24 hours later, you're planned to see the property at 3 p.m. Go there at 2 p.m., drive your comps, see the areas, drive some active listings, see the areas, drive properties that are under contract on the MLS, see the areas, see the exterior and what it's showing, see if the homes are updated from the outside, and identify where the properties that are under contract versus the properties that are listed, what's the differentiating factor, right? Is it the feel of the area? Is it the location of the area? Is the exterior and the sex appeal that it's attracting? What's the game changer? It's going to help you implement your business strategy or adjust your business strategy accordingly to what's selling in the area. Once you do that, notify your lender, right? Get the PSA, get the CMA or the comparable market analysis over to your lender. When you're doing this and you're going hard money, or really any type of money, you want to inflate the CMA a little bit And when I say inflate, be a little bit more bullish. Like, you're still going to base it off of what the comps are reflecting, but if you excluded a comp because it's kind of an outlier, maybe it sold for an extra $30,000, $40,000 in the year of the comps, include that. Because technically that is a comp. You're doing it internally to protect the investment. But if you do it right, you could achieve that. So show the lender, sell it to the lender, sell it to your private money lender that this is a really good opportunity that you don't want to miss up, and here's why, right? Make sure the ARV is communicated accordingly. The rehab scope of work is communicated. This is what we're allocating for flooring, for paint, for kitchen, for bathroom, for roof, for HVAC, for siding. All of it communicated. One, it will make you look like an authority figure in the industry, so they're more inclined to trust you. But two, now you have something to reference back based off of the scope of work, right? Because you already took care of it. Communicate purchase price, communicate hold time. How long is this property going to take you, right? A couple things that we like to do is like, hey, look at the comps. They sold in 45 days. The reason we're saying it's going to be a 5-month hold time is because the scope of work and the rehab is going to take 2 months. We say 45 to 60 days close, 2 months, 4-month hold time. That's the reason we're expecting to flip this property a little bit quicker, simply because the market is showing that properties are going a little bit quicker. Include all of it, sell the asset, sell the opportunity to your lender. It's important you do that, and it will likely increase your leverage a little bit, which we'll either dive into moving forward, or Sagar has already dove into it in the previous modules. Alright guys, so once you've done all of the preliminary due diligence, checking the CMAs, making sure the rehab budget is within a reasonable number that you think makes sense, make sure there's no red flags in the area, you've checked the area, you've checked the comps, you've checked the rehab budget, you like the area, you've checked the disclosures, and you're moving forward with the opportunity. You scheduled the inspection with the general contractor. Make sure you communicate the scope of work to the general contractor beforehand, and do not give them the number. Because if you give them a number of $75,000, but in all reality they can achieve $60,000, do you think they're going to take advantage of your rehab estimate saying it's $75,000 when they know they can do it at $60,000? Of course. I mean, it's just human instinct, right? They would do that because they need to feed their family. Let them communicate the number, and then reverse engineer it from there. What we like to do is we like to request our quotes back within 24 to 48 hours. It's very important that you hold these people accountable. If you walk the property today and they say, hey, I'll get it back to you tomorrow, and tomorrow comes and they haven't received it, text them saying, hey, we need this because our inspection timeline is coming up. We need to receive this quote. Stay on top of them, right? They're busy people. Do it respectfully, but stay on top of them. They're contractors. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you start flipping properties more so. Stay on top of them. Stay in front of their face. It's very, very important for you to do that. So you don't lose the earnest deposit when that inspection timeline lapses, okay? When you're visiting the property and you're at the property, take virtual walkthrough, right? Take videos of the property. Make sure you take pictures. Look at the corners of the roof, of each room. Take pictures of the mechanicals. Take pictures of the electrical panel. See if it's 100 amp or 200 amp. Take videos of the exterior, of the siding, of the roof. What that's going to do for you is, although you're getting one quote from one GC, you're going to send these videos and these pictures to your other 1 or 2 GCs to give you a preliminary quote. They're going to have to walk the property regardless to give you a hard to find quote. But at least you can get preliminary numbers and match it up with your other general contractor that walked the property. One, it's going to keep them honest and hold them accountable. It's going to create competition, and competition yields success. But they're more inclined to get more aggressive with their numbers and make sure that they can win the project, which will keep your costs lower. It's beneficial. When we started the company, we only had one contractor. He was our loyal contractor. We loved him. The process was good, the flow was good, but what we started noticing is numbers started increasing on rehab. When we brought somebody else in, right away those numbers were brought back down. So it's important you get 2 or 3 contractors that are trustworthy, reliable, and you have confidence that they can fulfill on your vision and dreams of fixing and flipping a property with good quality, with efficient costs, and somebody who's looking to grow and scale with you. Let's see. Confirmation with the contract on rehab amount. We went over that. Send all docs off to closing attorney and or title company to initiate title request. So once you walk the property, you verify it with your contractor in terms of the rehab estimate. Everything checks out. You're moving forward with this project. Send the PSA over to your closing attorney and title attorney. The reason that you wait until this point, because title and attorneys cost money. Title request costs $600, right? If you send it over before you do it and you go out to the property and you realize that it's a crumbling foundation, there's an underground oil tank, the roof is shot to shit and we didn't underwrite that and we're trying to retrade it and the seller's not willing to work with us and we're just going to back out and get our deposit back and fight to live the next day, in the title company or real estate attorney pulls title, well, who's liable for that expense? You are. So after all of that, you have to pay an additional $600 for title. We've done it before. It sucks to do. Again, it's only $600, but $600 or $1 doesn't make a difference. It's still money being spent that you could have not used if you followed these steps and these systems according to plan. Before closing, get a list of utility companies that the owner currently uses so you're prepared to switch over utilities. This too has happened to us where we bought a property, we didn't get the utility companies, we're chasing around, our contractor's doing the work and says, guys, power just went out. We need power to do the work, to use our drills, to use our sawzalls. It's not fun. It delays the project. Yeah, it might be 1 or 2 days, but nonetheless, it still delays the project. And you don't want to give any excuse to your contractors as to why there's a delay, right? You want to make sure you control the controllables. And one part of that is getting the utilities switched over, set up automatic payments so you don't have to deal with that, all right? We've been going through a lot, and I just thought of this off the rip, but just breathe, brother and sister. Just breathe. A lot of information. You'll get used to it. Again, a lot of these things you can print out and just follow. You'll have access to the slides when you do get a property under contract, so it will be timeless and seamless. Just make sure you do all of these steps. It's going to protect the investment and protect you at the end of when you're selling the property, okay? So when you're doing your due diligence, you've already confirmed the comp, you checked the disclosures, you've communicated the scope of work with your GC, you've done all of these things before you even go to visit the property. Now, when you go to visit the property and you confirm everything, typically what we like to do is have the listing printed out of what the seller's agent specifically posted in the MLS, but also property disclosures, right? And we're verifying everything in the property disclosures when we go to the property. So a couple things that you want to look for is mold in the basement. Check for mold. Mold typically looks either black or whitish, right? You want to check the basement specifically, typically around the foundation, and the joist is where you'll see mold growing. It could be around the cast iron piping. A lot of times cast iron is older, so a lot of times it will leak. So check around the joists to see if there's any mold growing. Walk the basement, search for any termite damage. A lot of times you want to bring a screwdriver. You could poke holes, typically in termite damaged wood. That's because it's hollow inside. The termites are penetrating and creating a hollow structure within the joist or any supporting beam. That's dangerous, one, and it can be costly too. So you want to make sure that you look for that and pay close attention to the joists in the load-bearing walls. Check the age of the furnace, boiler, any electrical system, just things to notice. You'll probably review it in the disclosures. Sometimes the disclosures don't list the age of the mechanicals, so it's good to identify if they look old, if they're in good working condition, if they need to be replaced, because that will impact your scope of work, obviously. Ensure there's no open permits. We've bought properties with open permits. It is a headache. Your general contractor will have to close out permits to start the work on for your rehab. So just make sure there's no open permits. See if there's any water intrusion in the basement. Typically you can see either water line in the base of the foundation or discoloration within if there's sheetrock down there, or even if there's a cinder block or asphalt. You can see just by shining a light, it'll be shiny if there's any water intrusion. The different type of foundation, there's cinder block, there's poured concrete, there's old stone. New England is an older area, so a lot of the foundation is made of stone. And what happens with stone is it attracts water and it causes penetration into the foundation. So just pay close attention to that. It's not necessarily a major concern. A lot can be resolved with a sub pump, which is pretty cost effective, and just patching it up and routing water away from the property via the gutters. But pay close attention to it. See if there's any asbestos or vermiculite within the home. Vermiculite are these little fluffy pieces of, almost looks like Funyuns or Cheetos. This was used as insulation way back in the days. Typically you'll find it in the attic, but take a look for that because it can be hazardous. Sometimes you can encapsulate it, but sometimes people do want you to remove it, and that can be costly. We're going through it right now, and it's we don't like the cost we're bearing on it, but you got to do what you got to do. Asbestos will be around old cast iron pipes. That was used for insulation, so the basement's not heated in the winter. They would use asbestos to make sure that the pipes don't freeze. It's like a tannish color. If there is asbestos and it's not disclosed, those are things that you can retrade, and we'll get into that later on in slides. But pay close attention to that because homeowners do not like vermiculite or asbestos within the home, especially if they're raising a family in it, right? Check the roof to see if there's any bowings or waves. This can indicate there's structural damage, especially if the floors are wavy as well. We had a property over in Guilford, Connecticut, where the roof was wavy. We went out to do a second inspection on it, but it was past the inspection period, and we ended up losing $3,500. It was not fun, but at the end of the day, we have to protect our investors. That's the number one fiduciary responsibility that we have. Outside of making money, we have to care about other people that we're investing in more so, right? Because you want to have this long-term relationship and build a long-term success within this space, and sometimes you got to eat those punches. Mentioned the floors. If there's bowing or waves in the floors, identify what's causing the bowing. Is it just warped wood from maybe an old leak that there was? Check the joist underneath. Sometimes joists might be cracked, which is causing that pitch within the floorboards. You want to resolve that. Buyers don't like walking on uneven floors. It can be a cause for concern, so just make sure you pay attention to that when you're walking on the floors. See if there's foundation cracks. Is it a vertical crack? Is it a horizontal crack? Is it a spider crack? So the difference between all of these are not necessarily too concerning. Spider cracks are, what happened was some odd years ago there was a quarry in central northern Connecticut that was that the chemical concentration within the concrete was off, and it caused a lot of these homes to develop spider cracks, which are significant foundational issues and can be a real big cause for concern. Horizontal cracks, those are concerning because if you think about a home, if a foundation slides this way, that means all the structures in the joists, in the framing can crack and cause further issues down the road. The vertical cracks aren't big of a concern because if you think of a foundation here and it's a vertical, it's not going to shift this way. It's only going to slide this way with a horizontal crack. Pay close attention to that. We bought properties with vertical and horizontal cracks. Just got to identify what the issue is, and you'll work with your contractor to do so. Check corners of the top floor bedrooms. The reason you want to do that is because typically if there's a roof leak, you'll see in the corners, right, where the water flows down the pitch of the roof. You'll see if there's discoloration in the sheetrock. That might indicate that there's a roof leak, so pay close attention to that because you'll have to resolve that prior to reselling the property. And then check the pitch of the property. If there's leaks within the basement and the pitch of the property, the pitch meaning if it's sloping towards the home or if it's sloping away from the home. Your standard pitch, the most ideal pitch is to be away from the home. That means the water's going to be pitched away from the home and be drawn away from the foundation. If it's pitched towards the home and you do have water penetration within the basement, you might want to fix the pitch, or you might want to fix where the gutters are draining out. Sometimes homeowners just leave the gutters right in the ground and the water flows directly into the foundation. If you pitch, or if you add water drains, extenders from the gutters, a lot of times it resolves the problem. Not always, but a lot of times it's done with us, just adding the gutter extensions to fix the pitch of the property. So all of these, very important to pay close attention to. Check the disclosures. If the disclosures doesn't indicate any of the following, if there's mold in the basement and there is no mention of mold, that's a reason to retrade. If there's structural issues and it says, in the disclosure that there's no structural issues, that could be a reason to retrade. If there's water penetration in the basement and the disclosures didn't indicate any water penetration that's going into the property, that could also be a reason to retrade. So pay close attention to this. Take notes. Bring a notepad. Bring the SLIT checklist, and again, bring the disclosures. Bring the listing of the property on the MLS, so you can cross-reference everything when you do the walkthrough. This kind of goes into the before the closing, what happens to get your team in order. You've already communicated with your general contractor. Once you receive the quote back, it's important to review the quote with your general contractor just to make sure that what he's referencing is exactly your vision. You'd be very surprised. One of the laws in the 4 Agreements, a really good book that I highly suggest, is never assume. So take the time to have a call with your general contractor and make sure that his scope of work aligns with your scope of work, and you cross-reference anything and make sure that there's nothing missing out. Because if something's missing out and he comes back with an extra $10,000 because he didn't underwrite that or he didn't include that in his scope of work, can really turn things upside down pretty fast. So just ensure that you're reviewing everything with your general contractor. Make the extra phone call, take the extra step, do the extra work. You'll thank us later for it. Landscaper, you want to make sure you have your landscaper lined up. Reason being because grass grows really fast in the summer and spring. So typically what we do when we're flipping a project and we're doing the rehab on a project, we'll cut the grass every 2 to 3 weeks. There's no need to do it every week because you're not trying to sell the property at that point. You're just trying to maintain the property. As soon as we list the property, that's when we're doing it weekly, right? Open house, you're doing it the day before. You're doing it weekly because there's continuous showings. Your expenses might be a little bit higher, but the property's going to show well because you're maintaining it accordingly, okay? Get your design and materials list together, right? You already know you're moving forward with it, so start designing the kitchen and the bathrooms. There's a lot of companies like Flooring and Decor in Connecticut, for example. There's bathroom designers within Flooring and Decor. If you have a picture of your bathroom or a virtual 3D imagery of your bathroom, you can provide it to them and they can design a bathroom with the tile that you might want to use, or you want to come up with ideas and they can design it because they have the tiles. Give them the budget that you want to stay within. Go to the clearance section. They have really good discounts on beautiful tiles. The number that's listed does not mean that's the number that you have to pay, so you can get a really good discount on these materials. These are the materials that they're looking to get rid of. Try to negotiate with them, build a relationship with them, and get all of these things in order so that when you do start the project, the contractors have the scope of work and the materials list ready to rock, so you're not delaying anything throughout the process. They can move effectively, and they can have all of their materials list and team in order so that when you do the rehab, it moves with velocity and fluidity, right? Again, anything that you do is to control the controllables and make sure that you give your contractor no reason to hold up the project, because they'll come up with every reason in the book as to why the project's delayed, and they will put it on you. So your job is to ensure that they don't do that. Provide them everything that they need up front within reason so that they can do their job accordingly, and you hold them accountable to doing their job, okay? as you're going throughout this process, if you're not using one of our private money lenders or you're using a hard money lender for the first time, it's important that you stay on top of them, that you communicate with them. Let's say you're communicating a 21-day close. You're at day 14. Appraisal hasn't been ordered. Text the representative. How are we looking with the appraisal? Have you sent me the appraisal links for me to pay so that the appraisal could be scheduled? What's the timeline to the appraisal for the appraisal to come back? When is the appraiser going to go out there? Because I want to meet the appraiser out there so I can help influence and persuade what our comps are reflecting, right? A lot of times what we'll do internally when we first started out, and I did this as a real estate agent, is when the appraiser would go out to the property, I would bring a list of comps that we're looking to achieve, and I'd say, hey, look, I don't want to interfere with your job, or I don't want to get, question anything that you're doing, but I thought this would be a good resource for you. These are the comps that we're seeing. You could throw it away if you want. You could take a look at it if you want. I know you got a job to do. Just want to be a resource for you if you need me for anything. A lot of times it will work in your favor. They'll look at the comps and be like, oh yeah, this makes sense. You can kind of influence and persuade the number that you're looking for based off the comps that you provide. Don't try to do it in a confrontational way, right? Do it diplomatically and try to be a resource to them rather than somebody that's trying to tell them how to do their job. Be a person that shows them what you're seeing, and if they want to use it, great. If they don't want to use it, that's no problem. But what that's going to do, if you do achieve the after repair value in the appraisal that you're looking to achieve, you have predictability for the cash to close. Versus if the appraiser comes back and it's $50,000 below the appraised value, well, that $50,000 spread is something that you're going to have to chunk up, which is a lot more cash to close, which it's not fun, but your numbers are your numbers. As long as you can bring that cash to close, everything's going to work out. But just things that you want to pay attention to: control the controllables, take the extra step, do the work. These are things that you can do proactively to ensure that, one, you're buying a good asset, two, you control how much costs are going to be required at close based off of just taking one or two extra steps in the process.